Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to crochet this beautiful baby blanket. This one is pretty big, I can't even get it into the camera, so I will show you here on the smaller piece. We will be working only with our fingers because we are using loop yarn, which is super fun to work with. My 6-year-old daughter has so much fun making stuff with that, and I also had so much fun making this baby blanket. It's very easy to do, great for beginners, and just the softest baby blanket ever. And now I will show you what we need and how to make this beautiful baby blanket. Today we will need a pair of scissors and our loop yarn. I'm using the Alize Puffy Color, and like you can see here, the whole skein just has loops. This is not normal yarn, this is a loop yarn. Of course you can use any brand you like, but I have to say this is really the softest yarn of the loop yarns I ever had. And for my baby blanket I used 5 skeins of the Alize Puffy Color. But like I said, you can of course use different brands, but this is definitely the softest. And now I will show you how to make this beautiful baby blanket. With laying down our yarn, because what we are going to do, here's my skein of yarn. We will be working back and forth. So you have to adjust the skein. But to begin, like you can see, we are starting here with a loop. But what I like to have is the beginning of the yarn that I can sew it in. And since it's a loop, there is no way to sew it in. So what we are going to do, we are just going to cut 2 loops open. So just insert your scissors in between and cut. And now you can see, here's our beginning, but I'm gonna cut 1 more, so I just have more yarn to sew in. And you just cut it open, and here's our beginning of the yarn. And now we can start working our pattern. And now I will show you how to measure or how to start your baby blanket. What I did, I counted for my baby blanket, which is 32 inches wide, 50 loops. Today in this tutorial, I'll be working with 10 loops just to show you how it works. And if you want to make a baby blanket in my size, I counted 50 loops. Of course, you can do 60 or 70. This is totally up to you. And you can see how wide it is on the loop side when you count it. For example, when I have here 10, then this is how wide my baby blanket is going to be. And my baby blanket was 50 loops wide. Once you're done counting your 50 loops, we will need the 51st loop here to start with. I'm working today only with 10 loops just to show you how it works. Otherwise, this would be way too big for the camera, but you need the 51st loop in my case, like I work my baby blanket. And what we are going to do, here is the 51st one. In your case, this is my 11th one. And we are going to put this yarn to the left. And here is the 10th loop or the 50th loop we need to work in. So we are going to start. First, grab the loop and bring the loop from the back to the front and pull up. What's very important that you don't miss a loop. If you miss a loop, you will see it on the back side, and then you have to open everything back up, which is really not fun to do. So take your time and make sure you grab every following loop and that you don't skip one. So here's our next one. And now we are bringing the back loop to the front loop, and we pull it from the front to the back, like that. Here's our next one. The next one, again, from the back to the front, like that. Here's our next loop. Again, put it to the front, and now work from the front to the back. And now again, here's our next loop. This loop here from the back to the front, pull up, and now from the back in front of the next loop, and from the front to the back, and you pull it through. And this is our first row. Repeat again the next loop here from the back to the front, and the next one, put it in front of the next loop and pull from the front to the back. And here is my last two. So again, from the back to the front, and here again from the front to the back. And this is how our first row looks like. For the next row, we are not turning the working part, we will only move the yarn. Now we need it from the left to the right. So here's our last loop, and we need to work into the last loop again to start the next row. So grab the loop and go from the back to the front. This is our border stitch, and here we start our pattern. Like you can see, you have the both loops coming up. So we are starting here again from the back to the front. Just like I said, make sure you don't skip a loop in the back. And now our next loop here, we will need the loop in the back, and we are working from the front to the back and pull up. Here's our next loop, and this loop we work from the back to the front. And again, the next loop we need to work in is here in the back, so from the front to the back, and the next one again from the back to the front. And you will repeat this in every stitch. So again, the next loop from the front to the back, and here again from the back to the front. And you will repeat this in every stitch. So the next stitch again from the front to the back, pull up, and here's our last stitch. So again from the back to the front. And in this row you can already see how our pattern starts to come along. At the end of the row, and now we are not turning our working piece. All we need to do is grab the yarn we work with and lay it back to the left. Just makes it easier to work with. Okay, so here's our last loop we worked in, and it's also our first now for the next row. And we always need to make our border stitch, and for the border stitch you're going from the back to the front, like that. It's very important not to forget the first one to work in first for the next row, that it's nice and even. Okay, and now like you can see, here appears our knit stitch, and here in the back is another loop. What's really easy now you can really see how you need to work those stitches. So if you take it like that, you can see we have some in the back and some in the front. Those are the knit stitches, and those are our back stitches. So if you have the back stitch here, what you're going to do always is go from the front to the back, like we did before. It's all the same, but now you can see it a little bit better. Now here, our next stitch is where the knit stitch appears. So you are always going from the back to the front. And again, the next stitch is the one here in the back. So go from the front to the back. And here again is our next knit stitch, like that, and you go from the back to the front. It's like we did before, but now you can see it a little bit better. So again, from the front to the back. here's our next knit stitch. So we are going from the back to the front. And that's all it is. It's super, super easy to do. And once you get the hang out of it, it's really so fun and it grows so fast. I'm here at the end of my row now, and the last stitch is always a border stitch, like on the first stitch here, and you always go from the back to the front. And now you can already see this beautiful stitch, and I hope you can see how soft it is. I just love this yarn and it's so much fun to work with. And now I will show you one more time how to crochet the next row, and then I will show you how to attach a new skein of yarn. So for the next row, again, you're not turning this working piece. All you need to do is grab the yarn you work with and pull it now from the left to the right. This makes it easier to work with. Here's our last stitch, which is our border stitch and also our first stitch for the next row. So again, always go from the back to the front for the border stitch, and you get a nice border out of that. The next stitch you can see we have here is our knit stitch. So for the knit stitch, again, from the back to the front. And again, the next loop is in the back. So this one we are working from the front to the back. Here again, our knit stitch. So from the back to the front. The next one is in the back. So from the front to the back. And it's just this one row repeat. And you see it's very, very easy to do. Again, here was our stitch, knit stitch, so from the back to the front, and the next one is just from the front to the back. And here again, from the back to the front, since it's our knit stitch, and I am now almost at the end of the row. So this stitch here, again, from the front to the back. And I'm now again here at my last stitch, and for the border stitch we always go from the back to the front, and you get this nice border. And now you can see how beautiful this stitch is coming along. And now again, from the right to the left, move your yarn how you need it, and just repeat this row over and over again. I will make a couple more rows, and then I will show you how to attach a new skein of yarn and also how to finish off your project. So just keep repeating this row over and over again. I repeated the row a couple more times, and now you can see the stitch even better. On the back side it looks the same. So like I said, it's a very, very easy and great pattern for a beautiful baby blanket. And now I will show you how to attach a new skein of yarn. So let's say you're here on the end. What I always like to do, I always use 3 loops. So I have 5 here in total, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I keep working 3 more loops until I have 3 loops left. So 1 more loop, and now what I'm going to do is just cut those loops open, so I have a nice string of yarn so I can attach the new one. So just cut it open, and here cut it open, and the last one, of course, you can only cut 2 open if this is enough for you, but I always like to have a little bit longer tail to work with. And here's our new skein of yarn, and I will do exactly the same here too. So here's our new one, and here again I will cut 3 loops open. So 1, 2, and 3. So all we have to do now is attach those 2 together, and I always do it, or with this yarn you do it with a knot. So here's our first one from the new skein. So just grab it and make a knot. So I always like to make about 3 knots so it holds really good. And 3. You have 2 options now. You could cut the yarn, or you just leave it and sew in the ends on the end like you would do on your normal crochet project. So just put this one, the tails to the back, and now you can repeat crocheting your pattern. So the tails are now here in the back, and now this is my first loop from the new skein, and I can repeat my pattern like I did the other rows. And this is how you attach a new skein of yarn. And now keep repeating this row over and over, and in a minute I will show you how to finish off your project. When you are done and you got your desired height you want for your baby blanket, we can finish off. What's really important is, for example, when you finish off on your right, like here's our working yarn, you need to start on the left side, on the left loop here. If you finished on the left side here, if your yarn is still going that side, you need to start from the right side. So always the opposite side. So to finish off your project, we will start with the first loop here, and we will take the next one and go from underneath to top, from the back to the front. Here's our next loop on the back we will be working in. So again, from the back to the front. And this is the whole repeat for the last row. So here's our next one. So again, from the back up, and again from the back up. And you will repeat this with every loop. So from the back, pull up. Here is our next one. Again, from the back, pull up. And this is how our border looks like, and you see it makes a beautiful and nice finish to your baby blanket. So keep repeating this until you get to your last stitch. So again, from underneath to the top and pull through, and this is how it looks like. Once you're on your last loop, we can finish off. All we're going to do now is just cut our yarn like 3 loops apart, and now just cut those loops open. So just cut through all the way until you get to your last loop. Here's the next one. Just cut this one open too. I always like to have a long tail to sew in. And once you cut the loops open, put your finger through. Now grab the yarn, pull through, and just pull tight. You can either cut the yarn or you can sew in the yarn, and then you are done. It's very easy to do. You can use a crochet hook for this, or you can use a yarn needle. This is totally up to you. And now I will show you how to do this with a hook. So I'm using a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook, like you can see on here. And now just go through, grab the yarn and pull through the loop, and just do this back and forth all the way along until your yarn is sewn in. It's very, very easy to do. You could even do it with your fingers if you want, but it makes it a lot easier if you use a normal crochet hook. So just pull through a couple times, and then we can cut the yarn in just a moment. So pull through, pull up, make sure it's not too tight, and now grab your scissors and cut your yarn, and we are done. And this is how it looks like. So in all your ends, you are done. I really hope you enjoyed how to make this beautiful baby blanket in this beautiful knit stitch. Of course, I would love to see your finished projects with this yarn or with this pattern. You can find me on Instagram. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you back soon. Bye.